All right, so today I wanted to show you, and I promise it'll be a better version next time, the how batch and serial tracking works in Deer. Okay, so Deer Inventory is an add-on that connects to Xero that will help you manage your inventory. So the products that you buy and the products that you sell in your business. Now, Deer is suitable for importers, exporters, wholesalers, even people that are manufacturing those products, where they're importing raw materials and then selling those, making those raw materials into something and selling it out. Xero itself, as an accounting system, has a very basic inventory system. It has the ability to buy and sell products, but when you're buying and selling them, it doesn't have the ability to have multiple price tiers. You can't take raw materials and add them together and put them into a new product. You can't really do multiple warehouses. You can do multiple currency, but then you can't do the landed costs. So where you can actually say, well, a landed cost means that I've got this this product and I've shipped it in, and when I bought the product it cost me $100, but then I had to pay $30 freight. So really that product didn't cost me $100, it cost me $130. So that's what the landed cost can be calculated, and that can be done inside an inventory system like Deer, but it can't be done inside Xero. Okay, so the topic that I wanted to talk about today is batch and serial tracking. Now, a lot of people shy away from this because I think it's really hard, but it's not actually that hard, especially when you've got a system like Deer to help you. Other inventory systems in the Xero ecosystem also manage batch and serial tracking, not all of them, but Deer is the main one that I'm going to focus on today. And if you want to see batch and serial tracking in other solutions in the Deer inventory system, in the Xero ecosystem, let me know which one it is, and I can show you that in another series, in another webinar coming up. Okay, so the concept of batch and serial tracking is that we're going to be tracing a product as it comes in, as it's used, and as it goes out of the business. It gives you traceability. So we say, okay, it came in on this particular purchase order and it went out on this particular sales order. Let's break it down a little bit more. I'll use the example of a pizza product. If you have, I'm not talking about making the entire pizza in this example. Actually, in my example, I'll explain it and then I'll show you a little bit of a quicker version. But let's just say we're making a pizza. We're making a pizza and we're going to be making the pizza base, which includes flour and milk and, I don't know, maybe egg or something. I don't know. We've got flour, milk, and egg. Okay, so that's what's in our pizza base. And then we have some ham and we've got some cheese, pineapple, and tomato paste. Okay, that's what, 8 different ingredients. You might buy those in. You might buy the bags in a 20-kilo bag. You might the bags of tomatoes in a 20-kilo bag. You might buy the cheese in lots of in blocks of whatever you buy it in. Lots of things, right? So you're going to buy all these things in lots of different components, in lots of different units. You're going to buy kilos of things. You're going to buy liters of milk. You're going to buy bags of things. You're going to buy lots of different units of lots of different types. That's fine. Deer just says, okay, how many tomatoes did you buy? How many kilos of tomatoes did you buy? How much milk did you buy? How much flour did you buy? You just buy it in from all your different suppliers. You factor in the cost of the goods. You say, I purchased this much and it cost me this much. Doesn't matter whether it's overseas or local, Deer can handle that for you, okay? So you purchase those goods in. Then you make the pizza. Now this is where the batch and serial tracking comes in. Or let's just call it batch tracking when we're talking about food. Serial tracking is more in relation to medical products or electronics. We'll talk about that later. For food, you buy in those components, and then you're going to make a batch of pizzas. So if you're going to make a batch of pizzas, then that batch is going to have a particular expiry date. And when you go and make that batch, it's pretty likely you're going to go get the tomatoes from the same pile. You're going to go get the flour from the same bag of flour. You're going to get the milk from the vat of milk that came in that's still good, it's not gone off. All right, so you're going to go to a particular place to get each of these items. Now, when you use those items and you say, you tell Deer, you say, in Deer, you say, I've made a pizza. And Deer actually has what's called bill of materials. I know some of you might already know this because you've been using Deer for a while, but there's plenty of people here that don't know inventory very well, so I'm covering all bases. We've got bill of materials, and a bill of materials is like an ingredients list, like a recipe. So you've got the ingredients list, like the one I mentioned, and the bill of materials is going to tell you what it is that goes on that pizza. So every time that you make one pizza, you then have the ability to, well, the system will know how many slices of tomato you use, how much flour you've used, how much water you've used, or not so much water, but whatever it is that you've used, milk that you've used, okay? So that's an ingredients list, and you'll see that in a second inside Deer. Then when you produce that pizza, you can put a batch date on it, like just today's date, for example. You could put a batch date on it, not the expiry date, it's a batch number, which is often the date. So you say, well, I made these pizzas today, and you put the date on that batch, and you can also put an expiry date on that batch. Finish producing that item in real life and obviously in Deer, then you have a whole bunch of pizzas in stock that have that batch number. It also has the expiry date on that batch. So you know at any point in time how many pizzas you have in stock, when they expire, and then you can go and start selling them. So you go and start selling the pizzas, and then when you sell the pizza, you assign the pizza from that latest batch to whoever you've sold the order to. So you've tracked that pizza all the way from the bags of flour all the way through to the end product. Now, for my example today, what I wanted to show you is I'm going to show you in Deer how you can actually sell a pizza, but what I'm going to do, instead of putting the 20 different ingredients of pizza, I'm going to just create a product for the pizza. I'm going to create a product for a pizza box, which we don't need to track. We just have a whole bunch of boxes. And we have, and then we'll have our finished good, which is the pizza to sell. Okay. Then we're going to see how we purchase in the boxes, how we purchase in the pizza. We'll pretend that they're ready-made pizzas, and then how we sell it out. And so you can see how the batch numbers work across there. Okay. So let me first of all take you to create two products. In Deer, to create a product, we just go to inventory and go to new product. Now, the reason why I'm working with a new product instead of using one and creating it already is to show you and explain the costing methods, because it's actually the most important part of when you're dealing with batch and serial tracking. So let's first of all call this SKU, SKU, so how we're going to identify this pizza. Let's call it RM pizza. And in my head, that's going to be called the ready-made pizza. So it doesn't come in a box. Maybe it comes frozen or something gross. And we've got pizza ready-made. We're going to be buying those in from someone. For our category, we'll just put other. And there's plenty of other fields here, but I'm not going to go into them today. We're just focused on the batch and serial tracking. The costing method is the most important one. Costing method, we have a lot of choices under here. We've got FIFO, which stands for first in, first out. And then we have all of these other ones, which are serial number or batch number or batch categories or costing methods. Let's just talk about FIFO first. So FIFO means first in, first out. It means that when you track a good, you're going to take up the cost when it first came in. And then when you sell it out, it's going to be the oldest good, the one that came in first, the first in one, should be the one that's going first out. So if you've bought 10 items over 10 months and then you start selling them, when you sell them, the system's going to pick up the value of the first one that you bought when you sell the first one, for example. Then here we've got serial number and batch numbers. Batch number and serial number is pretty much the same in this system. The difference is the same in the system, except it depends on whether whether it averages out the costs. Okay, so here FIFO means the FIFO serial number you use on your serial number items so that you can track the first one in is the first one out when you're dealing with serial numbers. Okay. What that means is you'll buy an item in, and if it had that, whatever the first serial number is, it'll be the first one that goes out. Now, Deer, when you sell something, will actually pick the first one for you. It's not like you have to line them up on the shelf and put them in order. Deer will actually pick the first one for you, and you have no choice when you set with FIFO serial number. Okay, so it's the first one in is the first one out, and it picks that serial number or that batch. FIFO is first expiring, first out. So you may have bought a whole bunch of items. Let's talk about the pizzas. Let's say you've bought a whole bunch of pizzas from one supplier, and then you go, and that expiry date might be November. But then you went and you found a special at the markets on the weekend, and you went and bought a whole bunch more of ready-made pizzas that you're going to sell. And they have a different batch or serial number on them, and they actually go off in 2 weeks. They go off in the middle of October. So they have a different expiry date. So what would happen in that case is when you sell those pizzas, then the serial number of the ones that you just bought the other day is the ones that will be picked up, not the ones that you bought the first time. Okay, not in the first batch, but in the second batch, the first expiring, first out. Now, when you use first expiring or first in, first out, so FIFO or FIFO in Deer, when you say that you're going to pick those items, it only lets you pick the first expiring or the first in, first out, depending on which setting you have. And that's not great for everybody, because reality is, if you're looking at Deer and saying, Deer, please tell me which one I should pick off the shelf, then you can use both of these. But if you're dealing with your picking based on just what you need to do on a daily basis inside your business to get things done, then you're probably going to be interested in special. Okay, special costing method for batch and serial numbers means that you can pick any one that you want. So let's say I, for example, have a client that deals with medical supplies. They buy these medical supplies that are used in surgery from overseas, and they import them into Australia. Then when they buy those things, they have a batch number on it, and they have an expiry date on it. Then they take 10 at a time to the surgery at the hospital, and they're sitting on a tray. So imagine them sitting on a tray in a surgeon's room, just about to go inside a person. Now, when they need to go inside a person, they just pick one off the pile, clean it off, and put it into the person. I'm sure it's much more complicated than that. But when they do that, they're not looking at the batch number. And even if the business owner puts them in the first expiring batch number pile up the top, they'll just pick up anything that they want. All right. So they'll pick up anything that they want, and then they will deal with it, put it in the person, and then they will track later on. They'll say, well, that was the one that we used. So it's not necessarily the first in, first out. Same thing when you're dealing with food. If you're dealing with food and in real life you go to the tomato pile and that batch of tomato piles is off, then you can't pick from that one. You have to go pick from another one. And then you'll obviously have some wastage of some items you've got to get rid of later. And so if you've used the special costing method, it means you can pick whatever it is that you need to pick based on what actually happened. You're not forced to be stuck with first in or first out. Whichever one was actually first in was actually first out. Okay, so that's that's the costing methods. All right, so for this ready-made pizza, we're going to give it a costing method of special batch, just because that is actually the one I use most, because it's the most practical. These other ones you can use, but only if you're using Deer for your picking. But when people first start using Deer, it's often that they'll put it on special batch, so then they can change it later on, or put it to FIFO or FIFO later on once they're comfortable and they're using Deer really well. Okay, so I'm picking special batch, and we'll just say here that it's an item. So that's all we're going to put in here. If you want to learn more about products and all the product fields, we can cover that another day. So we've got ready-made pizza. Let's go back and we're going to add one more product. Now we're going to add the pizza box. Now this time for the pizza box, we're going to leave the costing method as FIFO because it doesn't actually matter what the pizza box what batch it came on, because it's not an expiring product. It's just a particular product that comes in that we want to track how many we have, but we don't care about the cost or traceability from a purchasing or usage factor. Okay, so we've got costing method and the unit of measure. So we've now added our pizza box. Now we have those two components, but we need to add a third product. We need to add the final product, the perfect pizza, the pizza that we've got to sell. Okay, so we're going to say, let's call it the perfect pizza. And in this case, we are going to have a batch number again, because we need to track the production of the pizzas, not just when they were purchased in, but when they were, which pizza was actually used and going out in the box. Okay, so we'll save that. Oops, unit of measure. Okay, so we've now added the three products that we need. Now, before we can go do anything else, let's actually create the bill of materials for the perfect pizza. So for the perfect pizza, this is the product that we're going to be selling. We need to tick bill of materials. The bill of materials tick box here opens up a tab down the bottom. The tab down the bottom is called bill of materials. And it asks us, well, what is included inside this product when we go and build it, or when we go and assemble it. So when we go and assemble a pizza, put one of those ready-made frozen pizzas into a box, sounds lovely, then we will have a product that we can sell. So we have to add the components. We've already added the two components as products. We now need to add them inside this bill of materials list, so the system knows what to put inside it when you say, I've made some perfect pizzas, what did that include? So here we've got a component, so we're going to hit add component. And we'll tick pizza box, because every time we make one of these pizza boxes, then we can, every time we make one of these pizzas, we need to use one box, and we need to use one ready-made pizza. Now, I won't go into detail around bill of materials so much right now, but I will show you a few cool features that you might like in Dia. In Dia, you've got the ability to say how many you're actually producing. So this can be handy in two cases. Remember that this is the ingredients list. It's not actually a list of all of the things that, it's not what you're producing right now. It's the ingredient list of what you're going to be producing in the future. It's just like writing in a cookbook. So here it said, if you want to produce one of these, then you need to use one of these and one of these. You could say, in order to produce 100 of these, then you need to use 100 boxes and 100 pizzas. Now, all we're doing is increasing the proportion here, but let's take this example. I've got some clients at the moment that are producing salami. And of course, there's a whole bunch of stuff in salami. There's lots and lots and lots of ingredients that it takes to put together a salami. So, but what they're doing is they're saying, okay, well, we generally would make a run of 500. We generally make a run of 500 kilos. That's the finished product of salami that's produced. And then when we use, when we do that, it would use 0.04 or even more, you can go quite far, that much of a particular product, and it would use one of another particular product. Whatever it is, it's saying, well, every time you make 500, it's using all of these different components. So we might be talking about nutmeg and cinnamon, and maybe not cinnamon in salami, but all these different salt, milk, all these different cuts of pork. All these different things go into the salami. So what we're saying is it doesn't matter if it's just whatever your normal batch is and whatever your calculation is, you can have lots of different variances of lots of different products in the quantity. Then if you tell the system, well, this time I'm not making 500, when you go and run a production run, you just go, I'm just making 200 kilos of salami today, not 500. It will then take all of these quantities and reduce them down to what it would make to have 200, or let's say 250. So it would halve all of the quantities, and it will just do that automatically. You don't have to, it just does it automatically. So you don't have to say, well, if I make 500, what does it mean per every time I make 1 kilo? You just say, this is how much I generally make, and this is what quantity will be used each time of each of those products. So it's pretty cool. The other thing that's pretty cool is the wastage, the ability to have wastage percentage or wastage quantity. So when we're dealing with pizza boxes, are we going to have any wastage? No, we're not. Okay. The wastage here is 0 for a pizza box because we've just bought the pizza box, we're going to use it. For the ready-made pizza, we're also not going to have any wastage in this example. Let me find you an example where it does. I have a client that makes flooring, that makes mats for supermarket doors and things like that. And what happens is they have this big long sheet of metal and they cut it up into it's customized each time, but let's just say they've got a 6.1 thing of metal, and then when in order to manufacture, they cut it into 6 pieces, but then they've got this 0.1 left over. That 0.1 that's left over is considered wastage, because if you cut up the other 6 pieces, you can't use the 0.1 at the end of the process. It's wastage. It's not in stock. It's not a usable bit. It just goes out of whack when it's goes out of stock at the very end of the process. Okay, because you can't use it. It's just an offcut. It's a little tiny piece of metal. You can't use it. So you factor that in as wastage. You say, well, each time you use whatever, then there's a percentage of wastage that comes off, so that item doesn't sit there staying in stock. Imagine if you've got 1,000 of those, and at the end of the day, the system thinks that you have 100 left, because 100 meters of that stuff left, when really you don't have any. It's just a whole bunch of offcuts sitting in the corner of the factory. Okay, let's continue to talk about this pizza box. So I'm focusing on the batch and serial tracking and not talking about bill of materials. We've got a pizza box and we've got a ready-made pizza. We can now save this, and we're going to go purchase 2 things. Let's just purchase from the same supplier so that it's a little bit quicker for those of you that were expecting it to finish at 10:30. Let's go and purchase the pizza boxes. Let's say we need to purchase 1,000 of those, and we will purchase the ready-made pizzas. We'll just purchase 100. We'll say the pizzas are going to cost us 50 cents each. The pizza boxes are going to cost us 50 cents each, and the pizzas themselves cost 3. Okay, that order, I have to choose my tax. We'll put GST on it. So we'll authorize that order. What's happening here? There were problem savings changes. Location. Haven't used this trial file for a while. What's wrong? Order. Please select tax rule. The tax rule didn't come down the bottom here. Usually that tax rule would pre-populate. I just don't have a tax rule on the supplier that I picked, unfortunately. I'll fix that up. All right. So there is my order. So I would then send that off to my supplier. Then when they send it back to me, or they send me the goods, I can then go to stock received and copy from order. When I hit copy from order, I say, okay, how many did I receive? I can say, yep, I received 1,000 of my pizza boxes, and I can say they're received today. Note that because this is a FIFO product, it doesn't ask me for a batch number or a serial expiry date. It's given me a not applicable. But the pizzas, it asks me for a batch number and expiry date. Now, sometimes the supplier will give you a batch number and you can type that in there and an expiry date. Sometimes they won't. Sometimes they won't, and that means that you can enter in your own, or if you leave it blank, Deere will enter in the purchase order number as the batch number. So if you don't have to enter it in, a batch number will be effectively be assigned to it, which would be PO13. In this case, I'm just going to put in, I'll just say October 15, for example, as your batch number. And the expiry date I'll put in here as well, and we'll say it's got to expire on the 29th. Now, I put those two details in here. I could leave the expiry date blank if I wanted to, because I'm using special batch. If I was using FIFO or FIFO, it makes me put an expiry date in. But because I'm using special, I don't have to fill in both fields. So that's another benefit of using special. But if you want to force yourself to do that and you've got those other limitations that I mentioned before, then you could leave it if you wanted to. And leave it as FIFO so it reminds you to fill in those details. So we've got our ready-made pizzas that are going to expire at the end of the month. Let's authorize that. What we've done now is we've said that's what we received. Let's do the invoice. Pretending that we've got our supplier bill in front of us right now, and I think it was $880. And we've copied across from our original order pizza boxes and the price of the pizza boxes, and that we've received 100 and that they're costing us $3 each. All of that detail has come across, and I can hit authorize. Now, I don't believe I've got this hooked up to my demo company right now, but if I hook it up properly, and I will do before the next session to show you some more of Xero in action with Deere, when I hit this Sync Now button, it would come through, and this bill from ABC Furniture would instantly show in my accounts payable inside Xero. And it would show 880 is payable to ABC Furniture for these items. So you know exactly what you need to pay for the things that you've purchased. Okay, so that's what we've purchased. Why do we purchase it? Because that's what's going to happen in real life before you can really make a pizza. Let's now go and do a new assembly. So what we're doing now is we're going to assemble those two items, the pizza boxes and the pizzas, into 50 pizzas ready for us to sell. So they've arrived in the warehouse and everybody's going through the process of creating those 50. So I've got my location, I'll just call it main warehouse, and my SKU of the things that I want to make is the perfect pizza. And I said I wanted to make 50 of those. Now, I'm not going through the full process of production. That's for another lesson, another day. What I'm showing you here is how you can enter in a batch number and an expiry date and produce some products and pick the ones that you need to use during the process. So here we've got our finished good. We've said we're making pizzas, we're making 50 of them. If we look down the bottom here, there's a button that says load BOM. If we load the BOM, we can see that it says every time you want to make one pizza, it's going to use a ready-made pizza and a pizza box. That came from the bill of materials. Then over here, it tells me that I have 100 available and of the pizzas and 1,000 of the pizza boxes. All right, I think I must have left something in my bill of materials when I was mucking around with those quantities. Let me just save this for a second because those quantities are not right. Down the bottom here, it says I can make 50,000 of these pizzas, which we know we can't. We could only make 100. So I've accidentally left 500 on that product when I was talking. So let me go back to my perfect pizza bill of materials and change that 500 to, oops, wrong one. Change 500 to 1. Might make a few less pizzas. There we go. Quantity produce 1. Back to my bill of materials. Sorry, my assembly. And it's this one here. Just see if it will reload. There we go. So I've loaded the BOM, and I'll recalculate this quantity. No, that's still not showing. It's showing correctly down the bottom here. Just hasn't picked up the top. All right, so I've loaded the BOM here. It says every time you've got 1 and 1, and you need a total quantity of 50 and 50 pizza boxes, and you have this much of each available. So I'm going to authorize that. Okay, I've authorized that and said, okay, well, now we're actually going to go make them. Then now we need to go pick them. We need to actually, we've said that's what we need to make. Now we're going to go out in the warehouse. We're going to pick the boxes, and we're going to pick the ready-made pizzas. Here we've got the pizza boxes. They don't have a batch and serial number, so we don't have to do anything. We just have to confirm that we've picked 50. Then here for the ready-made pizzas, we have a batch number and an expiry date. For this batch number and expiry date, if I had other options of other batches I could pick from, like the example I said before, between October and November expiring items, then I could pick the multiple ones as long as I'd purchased them in. So that is my batch number and my expiry date. That's of the items that I am actually using. What about the batch and the expiry date of this pizza itself? Of the perfect pizza that I'm selling? The batch number and the expiry date for the item that you're actually producing ready to sell is up the top here. Because this expiry date down here, yes, it's a frozen pizza that probably expires at the same time that you're going to sell it up here. But what if it was a tomato? What if it was flour? What if it was milk? Your milk is going to have an expiry date of tomorrow or 2 days away, and your pizzas are going to have a completely different expiry date. Then you're going to have that expiry date at the top here. So just to show you that it can be different, we'll put an expiry date. And let's just say we've got a standard that we don't want to sell things after a week of production. So we'll put the expiry date as the 15th of October. The batch number itself, you can let Deere assign the batch numbers like this, which is the finished goods number, or you can type over it yourself. So for example, I've got some clients that put in the date of the production backwards, and then they have a batch number. So what day is it? It's the 8th. So we've got 25th of the 10th, 08. And then we'll say it's batch number 1 for the month, or 001 if you're going to do 100 of them, whatever it is. Okay? All right, so that's our batch number, that's our expiry date. That could be turned into a barcode or whatever you want. Now we're going to allocate those items, which means that those items will no longer be sold to anybody else. They're being used in this production process, and we'll complete that production. Let's go and look at our inventory availability, so our inventory list, and see what we have in stock. What we should have is 50 ready-made pizzas that are going to expire in a couple of weeks. Then we should have 50 perfect pizzas ready to go to be sold. And we should have the pizza boxes as well, 950 pizza boxes. So let's have a look here. Here, I'll type in the word pizza so you can see it clearly. Here we go. We've got all 3 pizza products. We've got the pizza box. There's 950 available, or 950 on hand. We've got the perfect pizzas. We've got 50 on hand, and they expire on the 15th of the 10th, and that's the batch and serial number here. And we've got the 50 ready-made pizzas ready to go to be made into another batch if we want to. So we can see how we can trace those items from all the way through, from when we purchase it to where it is, to what it's been used in, to who it's been sold to. Because when we go and sell those items, we then select, just like we did on the pick list, we pick out which ones of the pizzas we picked. So we'd be picking this particular pizza on the sales order when we pick our sales order. One more thing I want to show you, which is really handy with this batch and serial tracking, which just brings it all together. In the inventory reports, you've got this lot expiry or lot recall. So lot expiry will obviously show you all of your lots, or your batches and serial tracking items, and when their expiry date is. Now it says here lots expire before the 8th of the 10th. Well, we don't have anything that's expiring before then, so we'll say when it lots that expire before the 29th. And the lots that expire before the 29th is the perfect pizza. This is where it is, and this is the batch number. And there's 50 of them. So if you've got a whole bunch of lots expiring soon, I suggest you guys go and get selling those pizzas, or you get your sales reps to go and start selling those pizzas out of that particular flavor or whatever, so you can get them out before they go off and you can't sell them anymore. So that's a lot expiry report. The other one is the lot recall report. Now this is the one where you can really see the power of the traceability. So let's say we want to see the RM pizza product and what's going on with that. And we want to see what's happened with the October 15 RM pizza product. When we look here, when we've picked a product and picked a particular batch, we can then say, okay, I want to see my customers, I want to see my stock on hand, and I want to see my suppliers, all related to this product. Let's look here, we've got our suppliers. This product, the October 15 batch, came from ABC Furniture on purchase order 13, and we bought 100 of them. That's what we can see straight away. With our stock on hand, we can see that we have 50 of them still sitting out there, and 50 of them went inside the perfect pizza boxes on this batch on this date. From customers' point of view, I don't think it doesn't really tell us anything here because we haven't sold any yet, but what it would do is when we've actually sold it, it would show you the list of, let's say, the 10 customers that all bought the pizzas and where they would go to, okay? Or where they've gone to, so that you can then, if there was something wrong with that ready-made pizza batch from October 15, you can say and call those customers up and say, we need to recall this lot, there's issues, okay? All right, that's what I wanted to show you guys about batch and serial tracking. Now, as I said before, I understand there's a bit of a delay in the way that the questions pop up and the audio that you're hearing. So what I would do is I'll just pause now and let me know if you have any further questions, either about batch and serial tracking or about Deer and Zero. And I probably won't show you today, only because if it's blurry, I want to fix that before I can show you anything else later on. Okay, so I want to make sure that's 100%. But if you've got questions, place them in the panel or email me and I will get them sorted. So thank you so much for your patience with the issues with the blurriness today. I will fix that before next time, and we will yes, have plenty more to go through because I'm back at the same time next Thursday. Okay, so I'll leave it open for questions, and for those of you that are jumping off now or at the end when you hear me say this, have a fantastic day and I'll see you next week.